Berachos Daf Yotes. We had the other day that Rabbi Yonasan was walking in the cemetery and his tzitzis were dragging on the graves, and he was told, Loig l'rosh, you're poking fun at the dead. It seems like Rabbi Yonasan himself retracted, because Rabbi Yonasan says that Kadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, tell the Avos, Avram Yitzchak Yaakov, that I kept my promise, I gave Klal Yisrael Eretz Yisrael. You see that Avram Yitzchak Yaakov care about what's going on in this world. The Gemara says perhaps they don't really care. Just Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted Moshe Rabbeinu to speak to Avram Yitzchak Yaakov so that Avram Yitzchak Yaakov can have a karas hatov to Moshe Rabbeinu for everything that he's done for their descendants, Klal Yisrael. The halacha is, if you speak about a mace, it's as if you speak about a rock. What does that mean? Machlokes. Either they don't care, or they don't know. However, if you speak about an Adam Chashav, like somebody spoke about Mar Shmuel after he died, and a pole pierced his head and pierced the membrane around his brain, that's because HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself cares that you spoke about the Chashav person, but not necessarily that the Chashav person heard it and knows that you said something about him. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says that if you speak about a Talmid Chacham, even if the Talmid Chacham is in peace in Gan Eden, nevertheless the person that speaks about him will fall into Gehenna. Speaking about Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, the Gemara says that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said that there are 25 instances in all of the Mishnayos where somebody said something about a Kadosh Baruch Hu or other things, and they put him in nidui. They put him in chayrim, excommunication. Rebbe Elazar says, I only found 3. What are the 3 instances? That a Kaveh b'Mahalal says that the concept of saita, if somebody has an affair and the husband suspects her of having an affair and they give her to drink mayim ha'ma'arim, you don't do that to a guyares and a meshuchreres. That's what a Kaveh b'Mahalal holds. The fact that Shmai and Naftali, who were gerim, did it, gave mayim ha'ma'arim, they did the saita for a guyares, says the Kaveh b'Mahalal, that was fake water. It was a placebo. And for that, says the Gemara, that they put him in nidui. Says Rabbi Yehuda, that's not true. Akaveh ben Mahalal was a great man. There's nobody like him in Chachma, in Tahara, in Yiras Hashem. Therefore, couldn't have been Akaveh ben Mahalal. It was, in fact, Elazar ben Chanoich, who made fun of the concept of Natilas Yadayim, and they put him in nidui. And in fact, when Elazar ben Chanoich died, they put a stone on his coffin to show that even to the dead, you do skila, you throw stones at the coffin. There's a concept called Megis Daitoi Klapamala. He speaks improperly towards the Rebbeinu Shleil, like such as Choni Ma'agol. Choni Ma'agol, his name is Choni Ma'agol because Choni sat and he drew a circle around himself and he said, Hashem, I'm not moving from the circle until it rains. So it rained really lightly. He said, no, I don't want this rain. I want strong rain. So it rained really strong. And he said, no, that's too much. Give me the proper rain. The Gemara Shimon ben Shedach said, if you weren't Choni, I would put you in Chayrim. That's not how you talk. You're speaking like a son speaks to a father, and it's not correct. Titus, who was from Rome, instituted Zeicher leKarban Pesach. Everybody should take a goat and put him on a spit, on a skewer, and roast it. And Shimon ben Shedach said, you deserve chayrim, because people are going to think now that you could eat kachim outside of the Beis HaMikdash. But that's a brisa. The famous story of Tanur Shalach Rebbe Elazar held that everybody holds that in order to take a klicheres, an earthenware stove, and make it not tummy, if it's tummy, you have to break it into pieces. So let's say you chopped it up into pieces and you want to put it back together with sand. Rebbe Elazar holds it's tar. Chacham say it's not tar. Rebbe Elazar tried to prove it to them with the tree, with the wall that bent, the water stopped. A baskel came out of Shemaim and said Rebbe Elazar is right. Nevertheless, they didn't accept his words, and not only that, they put him into nidui and he died in a chayrim. So we have 3 places in the Mishnah, but why did Rabbi Shmuel ben Levi say 24? Because there are 21 other situations in the Mishnah where very similar to these 3 times, where the Talmid Chacham, who's a single person, an individual, went against the Rabbim, the majority, the Yachid against the Rabbim, and he fought really hard, and that is deserving of chayrim. And in some instances, it was a person who wasn't as great as the other, and he fought hard against the greater person, and that is deserving of nidui. Says the Gemara, you don't take out the dead when it's close to Zman Kriya Shema. People might miss Zman Kriya Shema, unless it's Adam Chashav like Rav Yosef, and they took him out right before Zman Kriya Shema. People listening to a hesped or Isaac b'mitzvah, it's also Loig l'rosh to go out. They should leave one by one. In other words, one person goes out, says Kriya Shema, comes back in, then the next one. If the body isn't in front of them, then they could all say Kriya Shema together, and the Aval sits there quietly and he says Tziduk Adin. He accepts upon himself the terrible tragedy that happened to him, and he says, Harbe Chatasi, I sinned a lot. Many echod mini elef, and you didn't even give me HaKadosh Baruch Hu what I deserve, 1 out of 1,000. Says Abaye, you don't speak like that. That's Poiseach Pelasatan. Altiftach Pelasatan. You shouldn't talk like that, because that means that you're saying you're deserving of a greater einish. We discussed the other day about people standing in a row and saying Hamokim Menachem Eschem to the Avel. The outer row is not partner from Kriya Shema. However, the Gemara qualifies and says if the outer row can see and can be heard, the Avel can hear him, so he is part of the Nichum Avelim and he's partner from Kriya Shema. The Gemara brings the pasuk Ein Chachma ve'Ein Tfuna ve'Ein Eitzel leNeged Hashem. When it comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if somebody does a Chil Hashem and it's a Chil Hashem, there's no such thing as he's a Chacham, he's a Navain. For instance, if a Chash of a person is wearing shatnez, even though it'll create a tremendous embarrassment if he has to remove it in public, he must remove it immediately. The Gemara goes through different cases. Why is shatnez different than all these cases? Maskaras the Gemara, when it comes to the Rabbanan were not geyser their gzeira when it comes to human dignity. So therefore, we have the concept of Beis HaPras. If there's a field that was plowed through and there was a grave there, and we're concerned that perhaps small bones that are sa'ira are spread out throughout the field, Midrabanan, if you're on the way to be makar b'karban Pesach, you could get on all four, blow your way through the field, and you see that's a concept only Midrabanan, because if it was the Reis, he wouldn't be able to do that. Therefore, if an Avel decides, he picks his route, there's a fork in the road, and he says, I want to go through the Beis HaPras, a Kohen can follow him through the Beis HaPras for the covet of the Avel. Same thing for the covet to give proper honor to kings, even Geisha kings. The Gemara says that Rebbe Elazar Tzadok, who was a Kohen, would step over the coffins. Now, there's a halacha that if there's a Pesach Tefach, there's a full Tefach of ear between the body and the top of the Aron, then the Tumah stays inside that Aron, provided that there's an opening on the side. So, we're not concerned that perhaps most Aronas have this Tefach. Maybe there's a larger person in the Aron or something, and you don't have that Tefach. That's a miut. And in order to give honor to kings, we're not chayshish for that Aron that doesn't have a Tefach. There's also the concept of human dignity. When it comes to toilet paper, and in the time of the Gemara, they used to use stones, so you're allowed to carry a stone for the bathroom. And if a person's tzitzis ripped, now he only has 3 tzitzis on 4 corners, he must take off his garment right away, but if he's in a carmelis, which is a shrus d'Rabbanan, he can leave it on. Then we have the pasuk that says, V'salamta, if you find an object, you must return it, but there's exceptions. If you're a kohen and you're a Beis HaKfaris, you're an old person, and it's not in your honor to take care of it, or you earn more money than it would take to give it back, you're potter. Why shatnez is any different? The answer is because it says v'salamta. There's a special miyot dafka in these 3 cases. And a nazir who's a kohen gadol, so he's a nazir and a kohen gadol, or he's a person who's going to do bris milah on his son, or to shach the karban pesach, he does not become tamei. But if there's a mace mitzvah, they find a dead person who's nobody's taking care of, then even a kohen gadol nazir should become tamei. Why shatnez is different? And the answer is because we're discussing sheval taisa by Mila and Karban Pesach, and it wasn't said by Tumah. Have a wonderful day.